The Canadian Card Collector here, and welcome back to day 310 of a daily deck review. And the deck that we're taking a look at today is the Mac Lethal Edition Orbit Playing Cards. So, with no further ado, let's take a look and see what we get. So here we have the Mac Lethal Edition Orbit Playing Cards in a matte black finished tuck box. Here on the front you got the Orbit logo and that yellow kind of like tech font there with a little red kind of outline around it. And you got like the girl there with the red hood and some skulls there at the bottom. One side you got the corporate information kind of. It says distributed by OrbitWorld.US, California, designed by Daniel Schneider, made in the USA. Other side says Mac Lethal Edition. On the bottom you just got the Orbit kind of little logo there. But it says Mac Lethal there with the little spaceship. On the back, you'll have a sneak peek of that back design. For the seal, it's just a yellow rounded edge square seal with that kind of black and red little orbit kind of like a circle kind of there. On the top, you got the iconic 23. On the tuck flap, it says, the deeper you gaze into the cosmos, the harder it is to look back, persist, and endure. And then on the two inner tuck flaps, it's just that matte black finish. If we take the cards out of the box, on the inside of the tuck box, as you see, it is a little bit custom there. On the tuck flap, you got the Instagrams for the Orbit deck and Mac Lethal there. And then you got a little Mac Lethal kind of signature there, and then the little image on the inside there. And then, if you can kind of see it, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know how we're going to be able to see that. This is terrible lighting. No, you just, oh, wait. You can kind of see it there. Where it says We Are Orbit. You got the We Are Orbit there at the bottom. There, okay. But now that we took a look at the tuck box, time to take a look at the cards. And it was pretty nice that the inside of the tuck box was custom. But now we'll take a look at the back design here. Here we have an almost mirrored back design with the standard white border going around. So it's a black background with an orbit kind of iconic orbit circle there. Then you got like the two women's faces there in the blue colorway. And you got the skulls on either side. But the one thing that makes it not a one thing that makes it a one-way back design and not a mirrored back design is that kind of like Japanese or Chinese font there in the middle there. Because it only goes one direction, so if I would flip it over, yeah, I guess I would leave it like this because they're already kind of flipped over, but if you were to have it like this and then flip it over, the font is upside down, so it makes it a one-way back design. It's almost a mirrored back design, but it's a subtle one-way back design, kind of. Now for the cards you get with the deck. Here we start with the first Joker. You got the little Orbit logo there, circles in each corner. And you got the portrait of a Mac Lethal there, who's kind of crying blood. And you got the two skulls there. Little Casey there at the bottom. And it says Joker down there with the Mac Lethal over top of it. And then you get a second identical Joker. So two identical Jokers. And then you get to the custom Ace of Spades here. And that little, got the big spade there. And it says We Are Mac Lethal. And then the Orbit's website. 23. And then that same design here was like the blue character with the yellow teeth and the sunglasses was the image on the inside of the tuck box. So if you couldn't quite see it, that's the image that was on the inside of that tuck box. And the rest of the cards are pretty standard to like the standard like orbit kind of design to it. They're like similar to like the standard kind of pips. They look standard, but I think they're like slightly custom. They don't look like super perfect, like crisp. Um, they're definitely like the Orbit font to it, even though they look pretty standard. Then you got the Jack, Queen, and King of Spades, and these are in a red, black, and white colorway there. And all the core cards are kind of crying blood. Some of the faces might be custom because on like the Orbit decks, they have some of the faces where it's actual like people's faces. on some of these cards. But other than that, they're pretty standard design core cards. And then the diamonds, okay, they are custom fonts because you can see the diamond looks a little custom there. So you got those custom diamond pips. And also the custom numbers there in the corner. They're a little bit more like a skinnier kind of number. And then the Jack, Queen, and King of Diamonds, once again, in that red, black, and white colorway was them crying blood. And you got some of them that have the custom faces to it. And then the clubs are also that custom font. And then the Jack, Queen, and King, red, black, and white color once again. Pretty standard design. Some of them have those custom faces once again. They're also crying blood again. And those clubs are pretty standard looking, but they're still custom at the same time. They're orbit kind of custom font or pips. And lastly, the hearts, Jack, Queen, and King are hearts. Once again, that black, red, and white colorway there. And they're crying blood once again with those custom faces. And then the hearts are those custom orbit font, standard orbit kind of design to it. And the last two cards in the deck, you get an extra ace, no, 8 of spades. And then you got a double backer of that back design. But now that we took a look at the cards, time to test the handling. And first we'll start with the springs. Well, the springs are pretty nice. They got a nice crispiness to it. They have a decent flex and bend to it. They're not overly stiff, but they're not like super like flexible at the same time. It's like kind of like a more of a medium style spring to it. So most people could easily spring these right out of the box. They're not like overly stiff. They got a nice flex to it. The springs are nice and smooth. The cards don't feel overly like slippery, which is pretty nice. So super smooth springs there. Now onto the fans. I kind of like that kind of little pattern that the little skulls give. I don't know, it's kind of a nice little addition to the fans. As you can see, they spread pretty evenly. You can see most of the pips and numbers, no real stickiness or clumpiness to the cards. Pretty smooth overall. Now for the Pharaoh. Pretty decent Pharaoh there. They did catch a little bit, but not too bad. In a lot of ways, pretty decent. Now for a giant fan of that back design. And now time for that reverse Pharaoh. So they're pretty much the same either way, but the reverse Pharaoh is a little bit more smoother. Now time for a giant fan of the faces. Now time for the riffle shuffle or bridge shuffle. Most the riffle shuffles and bridge shuffles, they do work. They're definitely not like the smoothest. They're still pretty smooth, but they're not like the smoothest. You can tell that there's a little bit of like a clumpiness to it. Not like super noticeable, but you can definitely tell. You just gotta work them in a little bit. Like the more you use them, the more smoother they get. And the more you shuffle them, the more you get used to the feel of them. So you just get used to it over time. But I mean, they're still pretty smooth there for the riffles. Not too bad. Like, they get better over time. Now time for a few packet cuts. Well, I was gonna say the packet cuts weren't as like slippery, but they did slide on my hands there towards the end of the packet cuts. But they're not bad packet cuts, they're not like terrible. But the cards are a little bit slippery, so you gotta be careful that they won't slide out of your hands. Now time for that one-handed cut or a Shirley cut. Now time for the dribble. All the dribbles seem to be pretty smooth. No real issues there. And now time for that spread fan. And lastly, spread the cards on the table. All I gotta say, not a bad deck of cards. Pretty nice orbit deck. It's definitely one of the more like different style orbit decks because it's not the standard kind of like space theme that they always go with. It's definitely like a little different there. So not everyone's gonna like the style of this deck, but it's not terrible. It's definitely not one of my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite orbit deck out there. But I'm not hating on it there. Not a bad design. You just gotta like have a certain kind of taste for it. But if you're into or if you're just a fan of Orbit in general, like I am, then I just collect it and have it in the collection. And I had to have it here to review. But if you're a fan of Mac Lethal, then this is also kind of a cool collab. So if you're a fan of Orbit and Mac Lethal, then it's the best of both worlds because it's two collaborations together. And then the faces are pretty standard. Like you got like the pretty much the standard Orbit faces, except for the court cards. The court cards are in a red, black, and white kind of colorway, and they have the custom like faces there where it's kind of crying blood. So that's a little different compared to their standard like face court cards. But then the handling, they handle pretty good. They're not like overly stiff, so they spring pretty good, and they're pretty smooth. There's no issues there because they have that air cushion finish. So definitely no issues with the handling. Pretty smooth in every aspect. Some it's a little bit more slippery than others, but that's not too bad because you'd rather more slippery than sticky. You don't want your cards sticking together. So overall, a pretty decent design. Like I said, not design not for everybody there. And then for that handling, they handle fantastic. So no real issues that I noticed, like no like, big issues. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. This has been day 310 of your daily deck review. This has been the Orbit Mac Lethal Edition, and I'm the Canadian Card Collector signing out. That's the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.